And more, we are not being told the true history. We are being given indoctrinative twistery. So what I wanted to do was to put together an understanding of what's going on as a bystander, as I told you, watching the game as it's being played. Now, a lot of people are probably not going to like what I have to say or are going to perceive or misconstrue what I'm saying as a supporter for either side. But I will let you know that as much as you hate Trump, there's something going on that he's been given a mandate to deal with that a lot of black folks or colored folks and Negroes and so-called indigenous peoples, as well as peoples who know what time it is, understand what his part is in this turning point for what we call the Americas. Now, I put together this little piece here, and what you're going to see over the next, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks is a battle of wits and a battle of perception. First of all, if you are all Bidened out for brain dead Biden, then I can't really speak to you because you're pretty much in a fog, and I can't speak to you because you know nothing else. If you're open to listen to what's going on and what's being said, then you'll get an idea that there was a whole other story going on that your CNN, MSNBC, Fox, ABC, and all of them were not telling you. A whole other reality was being prosecuted while you were kept in the dark. And I'm going to speak to that and how this election was essentially co-opted by the Marxists and that faction that was fighting for control of the lands and you. And most of you don't understand that this whole attack began with the COVID-19. Now, I'm going to read off some things that were part of Dr. Jangers and different people who were actually putting the information out. Most information that you see me put together over the last, say, 5 or 10 years up to this point. I did this very quickly because, this was some kind of a last minute thing that my beloved brother put me in. So, I like to get things really done real quick and real fast. So, enough being said, I'm going to read this off so that even if you're recording it audially, you'll have something to be able to deal with. Now, according to what's being said, the deep states plan to undermine and steal the election through electronic fraud. And listen carefully. Again, I'm not taking sides. This is the side you did not hear in your news. So I want you to understand the battle that's going on behind the scenes and behind the camera, not in front of it. The deep state's plan to undermine and steal the election through electronic fraud was to use a digital breaching system called the Hammer, which in turn launched an app called Scorecard that has the ability to alter votes. This technology was used to undermine the elections in other countries by the CIA as well. It was also used over the past 12 years to stage election wins for Hillary when she ran against Bernie, but failed in her attempts against Donald Trump, but was used again recently by Biden's camp against Trump. We're going to get a little deeper into that. Item, the mail-in ballot scheme was actually the deep state's backup plan to their electronic theft of the election. And this is what you're going to see. You're going to be pissed off with what you're seeing the Republicans doing, because everybody's dancing in the streets and they've already crowned Biden as the president's elect and elect. He ain't. The mail-in ballot scheme was actually the deep state's backup plan to their electronic theft of the election. However, the steal began really with the COVID attack. This opening salvo, COVID, was coordinated to shut down the economy, create panic, engender isolation, and provide the excuse to implement draconian lockdown measures, small business destruction, forced testing and vaccinations, and provide the ultimate excuse to push the vital need to use electronic and mail in voting ballots. You see in all of these, I don't think anybody can um, dispute this past paragraph and what has been said in there. You've seen what's happened to you, to what you have to do, what you've lost, what you've thought you've gained, and so forth. The next tactical phase was to get the media to push fake polls while limiting broadcast of Trump's campaign rallies on TV, which showed hundreds of thousands from the middle and lower castes supporting him. These fake polls were to fool the politically ignorant into believing that a brain dead racist, yeah, liar, yeah, pedophile, and child molester who heads a criminal cartel was leading Trump in every category of the campaign. Now, I can almost hear everybody out there saying, this Negro for Trump and so forth. No, I'm for the real of what's happening, not the illusion. If you know the history of the Democrats, they were the ones who were started by the Ku Klux Klan. And you didn't get a black person into the Democratic Party or into the Democratic government until 1992. Think about that. This was to get the politically ignorant, emotionally charged up to the point where Biden would naturally be claimed the winner, if and when the media declared it to be so. Now, how many out there really believe that he is the president-elect? Most likely at least 35, maybe 40% of you do. Those hardcore, Trump haters who really didn't vote for Biden, but essentially voted against Trump. They were actually taking the devil between the devil and the deep blue sea, and they would rather have gone with the devil. Hey, they say they know the devil. The deep blue sea, some of y'all can't swim. It's too deep for you. Well, let me just try to give you an understanding of what it is that you've just done if you did vote at all. But those in the socialist deep state know that Biden is not the president-elect because the media does not declare the winner of a presidential campaign in a constitutional republic. The courts and the electronic college do. The Electoral College does. And they announced the winner on December 14th. Again, the fake media polls were meant to suppress voter participation for Republicans. And being just as politically ignorant, those would believe, those same Republican peoples that were black, white, Asian, and so forth, would believe that it would be futile to even go out and vote, since the polls say that Biden was highly favored to win, and all numerical indicators show this to be true. That is, on CNN. However, the deep state's plan to steal the election electronically and with mail-in and stuffed ballots had an Achilles heel. The record number of people who turned out to vote mostly for Trump, i.e. white, blacks, Asians, Haitians, Hispanics, and even Democratic men and women who across the country, a record of 95 million people all total voted, overwhelmed the Hammer system, causing it to reveal how the scheme was being played out. The scheme was exposed and was brought to light with the desperate attempt by the deep state in Pennsylvania to add 190,000 ballots for Biden at 4 a.m. in the morning the next day. Now, want to know why it's being tied up in Pennsylvania? Because it was a funny thing that they found. There were statistical anomalies that were crazy. And because they saw what was happening and that Trump would get back in, what they did was they rushed to just fill in Biden, but the down ballot, where all the other Democrats were actually running for office, nobody was checked off. All of the ballots that were suddenly pushed into the count only had Biden checked off, which that doesn't happen. When you're voting, you usually vote for the president and you vote what is called down ballot, which means you check off those who are on the same party, or you cross over and you deal with someone else. But over 190,000 came in, and when they began to read them off, even when they were not, because the Republicans were not allowed to see the actual ballots themselves. They were told to stand 15 feet away, then they had to get a court order to stand 6 feet away so that they could see what it is that the Democrats were doing. And then at that point, the Democrats got people to stand up and block off the people who would be monitoring the process. Something was going on, I would say. Now, proof of this attempt to steal the overall election was actually admitted to by brain dead Biden, whose Freudian slipped up and revealed to the entire world the Marxist Democrats' scheme to steal the election by mail-in and computer fraud. And I will give you his words. These words, of course, that they say, well, he didn't really mean this. No, he said it. You say what's in your mind. He said, secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics, end quote. Some people say that he's crazy, he's a little doddering, he may have misread his cues. Well, whatever it is that he did, it obviously is coming true now and is being revealed. Why? The following was exposed by Air Force General Tom McInerney, who was retired, as well as Mary Fanning and Alan Jones, who wrote a book titled The Hammer is the Key to the Coup. The Hammer is the Key to the Coup. This title was said to have been based on what Admiral Ace Lyons told General Tom McInerney. Admiral Lyons stated that the Hammer was an illegal surveillance program that tracked and monitored not only Trump and other deep state adversaries, but millions of Americans as well. He said it was the key to the future life or death of this country. The Hammer
I think Dr. Valentine's audio. Dr. Valentine, can you hear me, my brother?
protect the United States from foreign attack just after 9/11. This stolen tech was appropriated. Cutting off my, okay. This stolen tech was appropriated by Obama, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Clinton, and Mueller, who turned this foreign surveillance tool against the American people. Item, and I'm going to repeat this again. CIA contractor Dennis Montgomery built the Hammer in 2003. Item, Robert Mueller's FBI provided the computers for the Hammer, which is why they put him in charge of the Russia investigation. Item, the Hammer is a foreign surveillance system featuring multiple echelons of safeguards and sign-offs to prevent United States personnel, up to and including the President of the United States, from using the system for unlawful domestic surveillance. Item, on February 3rd, 2009, 2 weeks after President Obama's inauguration, John Brennan of the CIA and James Clapper of the DIA, of the Defense Intelligence Agency, moved the Hammer into a secret CIA facility in Fort Washington, Maryland. Item, after Dennis Montgomery saw that Brennan and Clapper had commandeered the Hammer and transformed it into a domestic surveillance system for blackmail and leverage, he walked away and became a whistleblower. Item, in 2013, Montgomery alerted multiple officials in Washington that the Hammer was being used to conduct illegal domestic surveillance. In fact, he sent faxes to, of all people, President Obama and Vice President Biden to alert them about the domestic surveillance. Item, Brennan and Clapper used the Hammer to spy on Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, which is actually a Republican-leaning conservative in the Supreme Court who is now leaning towards liberalism. Chief Justice Antonin Scalia, as well as 156 Article 3 judges like Emmett Sullivan, also monitoring FISA Court Judge Reggie Walton, members of Congress, Wall Street executives, Rudy Giuliani, Michael Flynn, Donald Trump, all of the members and people living in Trump towers, and the entire Trump family et al. Item: Brennan and Clapper used the hammer to spy on Trump because it was told that the CIA feared Trump. In Montgomery's testimony, it was said they wiretapped Trump, quote, a zillion times, end quote. Item: The Obama White House had access to the hammer through an encrypted VPN, or what is known as a virtual private network. Item: In August of 2015, Montgomery entered a limited immunity agreement with the FBI and handed over to the general counsel, who was at that time James Baker, as well as to the FBI director, who was James Comey, 47 hard drives of evidence proving that Brennan and Clapper had used the hammer to conduct illegal domestic surveillance. And included on those 47 hard drives were 10,000 pages of documents exposing Hunter Biden's criminal deals with the Chinese, the Ukraine, and the Russians, as well as his connection to Joe Biden as his boss, taking a cut of what it is that he went out as the bag man to get for Biden. Item: In 2006, then Director of National Intelligence John Negroponte silenced Montgomery with what is known as the State's Secret Privilege Act, which states that if he speaks to the public of anything he discovered, he'd go directly to jail. So how does the hammer work? Well, once the hammer framework gets into a system, it launches what are called exploit apps that have dedicated features. One of those features is called Scorecard. Item: The hammer software, called Dominion, is the backdoor feature that allows the hammer to inject Scorecard into the system. Dominion is the portal through which Scorecard manipulates the electronic voting ballots. Now, let me just get this straight for you so you can understand, as I was made to understand. What the hammer is that it invades packets of information that travel over the web. What it does is it breaks into these packets and changes the content, the informational content of these packets. When he changes the packet, say for instance, you have 5 votes for Trump, and you have 1 vote or 2 votes for Biden. What the hammer does is it cracks into that packet, and then through Dominion uses Scorecard to change the numbers around so that by the time it gets to its destination, it looks like there are 5 for Biden and 2 for Trump. And this is exactly what it is that's been happening all around the country, and especially in what they call the states that the swing states and those hardcore states that have dedicated Republicans and dedicated Democrats. Now, finally, what I'm going to show you is the election through our autochthonous lens. And this is very brief, very, very brief. So understand that I'm not giving you everything all at once. What I want you to do is to understand that there's a war going on for your mind, for your body, for your signature, and for the ens legis, all capital letter name that you just now re-entered back into the system. Now, there are only 2 officers, and I get this information directly from my source, who is, he is declared as the Prime Minister of the United States of North America. And he states that there are 2 officers, President of the United States and the United States Incorporated, which just officially dissolved via Chapter 7 bankruptcy on the 3rd day of November 2020. Biden and Harris, actually ran for a defunct office that went bankrupt on November 3rd, 2020. The second office, he says, is President of the United States and the USA Incorporated, which is currently in Chapter 11. So the entire election was a contest for the quote presidency of a corporation that is in bankruptcy and in reorganization. However, neither of these entities are the government of the United States of North America in the family of nations. No corporation is sovereign. They all have to be chartered or granted or commissioned into existence by a sovereign entity, and by definition, they are not sovereign themselves. We are that entity. They have no sovereign immunity. They are nothing greater than Wendy's, GM, or Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola Incorporated. They are our USNA, or United States of North America, subcontractors, our subcontractors. That's what all the constitutions are about: structuring, defining, and limiting the duties of subcontractors that are supposed to be providing our autochthonous USNA nation states and the autochthon people with certain enumerated services. There are originally three such business enterprises engaged as federal subcontractors. One is American, one is British, and one is the Royal or Holy Roman, I call them royal because they think they're kings, the Holy Roman Empire interest. Now, finally, I'll break it down. An American subcontractor, or the American subcontractor, that's us, has been paralyzed and inoperable since the Civil War. And the other two subcontractors have usurped upon its roles and duties for their own benefit, instead of alerting the people of this country to the situation and assisting us, as they are contractually and morally obligated to do, to finish the so-called reconstruction that was supposedly started after the uncivil war. These other two federal subcontractors, that is the Brits and the Papists, reorganized following the Civil War and began operating as commercial corporations in the business of providing governmental services. They've been in that status ever since. So technically, the President of the United States is the CEO of the Papist or Pope's Municipal Corporation, which is in the 10-mile District of Columbia. And the President of the United States of America is the CEO of the British Territorial Corporation, whereas we, the autochthonous peoples of the USNA, are operating on a whole other frequency and level as their employers. But you cannot understand that you are not empowered once you make a commitment to them. And here it is. The fact is, the defunct U.S. Incorporated has just reincorporated and re-registered as USA Inc. as an LLC, or limited liability corporation, in Great Britain. And those who voted in this 2020 election have now unknowingly signed themselves over once again as voluntary chattel property to this corporation. In essence, they've picked up the options on their adhesion contracts by saying that they submit to the dictates of the selected CEO of the corporation for which their straw man voted, and will assume all debts and liabilities applicable to their all caps ens leges when demanded by the corporation and their selected CEO. You can bring me back in. You can bring me back in. If it's, hey, there you go. How do I get out of this? Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, let me just get that.
Oh, brother, that was amazing.
Okay,
wow.
Here we go. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, that was powerful. That was that was something there, Dr. Valentine. That's something that we definitely don't see on any of the news outlets. What is it do you think, in terms of Trump and them saying Trump is the last president, and them saying Biden, a lot of people are saying Biden is his brain is gone and Kamala is going to be the next president. What is your thoughts on that? Let me start out with that.
Kamala is really not a citizen of the United States of America. She wasn't born here. That's number one. She shouldn't even be running. Number two, Joe Biden, I believe, if he does win, it's going to be by default or by coup. He's not the president of the United States. In fact, Trump did win. What happened is they know that once Trump did that, Trump is he is again his secret faction is supposedly the Golden Dawn, and
the Golden Dawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everybody's fighting for our lands except us because we don't know who we are and we don't know what our status really is here on this continent. We have to come out of this corporate fight, this corporate dogfight. You have the power to create the rules. You have the power to create the money and to use the money. You are a creditor, but you have signed over that status to become a debtor. Now, they say that Trump is the last president, and he may be kind of opening the way for the real prime minister, because a prime minister, as you know, can only be a prime minister over a sovereign, an autochthonous, or indigenous nation. The prime minister, not the president. President is under the prime minister. So Kamala Harris, she's a cackling fool. Every time you talk to her or you ask her a question that she knows she can't answer, she busts into laughter. That's the sign of a psychopath. As soon as I saw her laugh every time somebody addressed her, that's a psychopath. Trump is an asshole. We're all an asshole. He's a New York asshole. He's the people's asshole. And what happened was he went in and lived amongst the elite. And what he is doing is betraying the elite, which is why the Republicans and the Democrats hate him. They have to get rid of him. What has he done? He's exposed. Look at what happens under Trump. Think about it. You may hate him, but we found out all about what Hollywood does with our children and where our children are and what's happening to them with all these rituals. We found out that the Republicans and the Democrats are stealing elections, have kept us in perpetual wars, have shipped all of our jobs and all of our intellectual capital overseas. They've done everything to undermine the population and take away our rights. If Biden gets in, kiss your Second Amendment goodbye. If Biden gets in, you will be wearing a mask even in your sleep. If Biden gets in, you will be hearing knocks on your door where they will be asking you, were you vaccinated yet? And a lot of people say, well, no, that's not the truth. Biden is for us. You're just sucking up to Trump. No, you're just stupid. You don't know half of the actual war. You're just looking at one side from one side, and you're pretty much nothing more than a CNN clone. I don't watch the news anymore. I go and I look and I research behind the scenes. I go up online, but I go to the books that I have and I look and see what it is that's really happening. I go back and I study the history of the people and the characters playing. I don't pick a side. I just know who's who in the game. And then I bet there and I put my money and my chips there. That's what you are. You're in a huge gambling casino. And what else are you doing when you go up there to vote? Aren't you gambling that this dude is going to do right by you? So the only way we as autochthonous people are going to actually benefit from this is if we begin to seek out ways to get out of the corporation, period. The corporation just now got millions of Black folks, white folks, people back into the corporation once they decided that they were going to vote in this election. Yeah, this might be the last election. I don't doubt it. But there's going to be a change, a shift, a quickening over the next 10 years. And it's either going to go one of two ways. You're going to find out that there is a tyranny or a tyrannical form of government that may be playing both sides to the middle. But at this point, the one that's causing the revelations for us to get prepared for the war is on Trump's side. The other side is just telling you he's this, he's that. If you notice, for the last 4 years, you haven't heard one positive thing about him from the news. Is that? I mean, are you really thinking you've been given a steady stream of hate by news that tells you that they are journalists? They're not journalists. They're part of the Mockingbird media working for the CIA and the Mossad. And these people have a lot to lose because they are the elite. They don't give a damn about you. Was it the Republican states that were burning down your businesses? Was it the Republican states that were allowing the people to loot? Was it the Republican states that were setting fires to everything? No, come on, wake up. The Democrats are the demons that were created in order to keep you from your Republican status. And these white folks are taking it over and they're benefiting from it, and they're using your government. You don't know that because everybody that they've put in there so far, representative of the Republican Party, has been milksops, have been all for the white establishment, all for the race. That's why the racists love the Republicans so much. Why? Because they work for white folks. They've been taken over. Our USNA has been taken over, and they work for white folks. They're going to work for themselves. When you start getting back into the government, which is your original autochthonous indigenous government, and start demanding the lands back based upon your status, then you're going to get the respect. At this point right now, you ain't nothing but an African American. You ain't nothing but a nigger. You're a Negro. All of these are not names that you give to people who are indigenous and sovereign. You don't have a nation. You haven't claimed a nation. You've claimed a nation state that belongs to a corporation. It's a corporation. You've claimed yourself. You are a citizen of a corporation, a small C citizen. So Kamala Harris and all the rest of them, nah, I don't see her or Biden in office at this point. I think Trump is going to win this again because they're going to expose the game, and then that's when we begin to put the feet to the fire. In the meantime, what I tell everybody. Where is it? Looking for my room.
While you look for that, Dr. Valentine, everybody's saying YouTube crashed or it's frozen. If you can't see it, yeah, the whole chat is saying basically that.
You want to know why? Because of what I'm saying. They already got the algorithm out, and they're looking for words, and they're looking for circumstances, and the algorithm has become so sophisticated that it has the ability at this particular time to pick up on certain words, string them together, and to come up with a decision. And they automatically begin to start hitting and picking on you. What I say to you is, when the time comes, family, and the time is going to come, it may come, when the time comes and you feel that then you want a draconian and totalitarian government in place, maybe we'll get it with Trump, or maybe we'll get it with Biden. But know that if they come, it's life or death at this time. You get your food, you get your water, you make sure that you convert to gold, convert to silver, get back into the mind frame that everything right now is temporary and up in the air. Everything that we're dealing with at this point is on the edge. All right? And what I say is, be prepared. Be prepared how? Be prepared with your home, to secure your home, get yourself your food, your water, and a generator that runs on solar power. If you are not protecting yourself, to hell with what the police say and so forth. When these people start coming at you, if it ever comes to that, when these people start coming to your home and they start breaking, because they're going to go to the suburbs next. They went into downtown, then they creeped into the suburbs, and they got pissed off with the guy who walked out on his own property with his AR-15 and her with her pistol, and they were saying, okay, we're going to have to arrest you. Arrest you for what? He's illegal. Okay, they got, you see, they didn't mess with his property, did they? No. And I'm saying to you, and this is, it may sound like a desperate, it may sound like it's, how do I say, I'm getting a little excited. And so, no, I'm telling you to become prepared for anything at this point, but know that there's a battle of wits going on for the soul of this country, your land. And whoever it is that comes out on top is going to shape the way this country is going to be for the next 25 years. So you better hope, based upon this fact that Trump is stating that he's dealing Republican and he's dealing with the Republic, and he says we'll never go socialist, we'll never go communist, we'll never go Marxist. You better hope we don't ever go Marxist. You better hope we don't ever go communist. Because if you take a look at what it is that they did to those countries that they did take over, all right? Remember, Nazi Germany was a socialist state. Let me repeat that. Nazi Germany was a socialist state. You better think about your history, not your twistery, because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, it's just funny, Dr. Valentine, like literally the day after the election or selection, as you say, all the COVID news, Corona news started to resurface. And today, an article came out saying that it's at record high numbers, and Pfizer has a new vaccine that's 90% almost ready to hit the market. Like COVID just hit the news hard right after the election. Bill Gates started tweeting. I mean, it's just, yeah.
You could see that the coordinated plan has stages. The coordinated plan started with COVID and will end with the COVID. Notice? Yeah. It started with COVID, then everything went to pot. Oh, wow. You got a distance. Oh, you can't go to work. We got to shut down your business. You have to be 6 feet apart. You can't do people's hair. You can't cut people's hair. You can't do it. Shut down and caused panic in the average American people. Then they let loose their shock troops in the form of Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And they started burning and breaking up stuff. There was a part where you saw, I don't know if you saw that video, where this black man was pleading with them. He says, why are you doing this? I've been here for 25 years serving my community, and here you are burning down my house. You've broken my window. You've burned down my business that I took years to build up. And these are the people that you're saying, the Democrats are saying we're tolerant, and that every time I see a Republican, a gathering or a march or a Republican rally, I don't see anybody burning or twisting or saying that, you can't be here as a Democrat. But if you go into the Democrats, or you go into where these Antifa's people, and you go in there and you try to be opposite to that, you take your life in your hands. And of course, people say, well, that's all right, because that's us fighting racism. You don't fight racism by killing each other, by going into your own community and burning it down and letting these little pieces of scum in their little black masks coming out of their basement and getting their little check and their little, what do you call those cards in the mail from the Soros Corporation. They get a $200 stipend. Some get a $500. The leaders get a $1,000 stipend a month just to go out and march, terrorize, and break up shit. So who are we dealing with at this point? You want to be under a totalitarian government, or do you want to be a republic? If you go with Biden, he told you he's going to raise your taxes up to something like 60%, and it's going to hit the middle ground, the middle and the lower income. He's going to take away your guns, all right? He's going to definitely make sure that you are masked into next year. And he's going to demand mandatory vaccinations before you can even work. So Trump came out and said we're creating vaccines. We're creating the vaccine, but he wasn't about creating no damn vaccine. He wasn't about dealing because his kid got vaccinated and ended up with autism.
Right.
He ain't about that. He kept on telling you that there are other means for you to fight this. So they say, well, look, he's pushing that. No, he's not. He's not pushing it. In fact, I'll tell you this. You know about my vaccination exemption package, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Been doing it for the last 25, 30 years. I'm the one who created it for our community. Do you know I've had more problems in getting that to be accepted by the schools and by people in hospital administrations when I was under Obama than I was, and Clinton, than it was under Bush and under Trump?
Wow.
Because they believe in religious freedom. And mine is a religious exemption. So Trump set it up so that if you have a religious beef and you say that I don't want to take this for religious freedom, he has a department that was set up to protect that in the hospital administration, the HA and the health and hospital administration. There's a rule and law he put in place to say no to vaccinations. Obama didn't do that. Now, who amongst you is going to college right now? Y'all going to a HBC, historically black college right now. Who amongst you is doing that? Do you know that the administrators and the heads of these colleges, the presidents, had to go hat in hand to the government each year to get monies to function? Each year. Trump came in and said, damn that. Hey, I'm gonna give you $5 billion, $10 billion for the next 10 years. You ain't got to keep coming back here. Now, of course, this is because you don't know how to get your own damn money, and you're still acting as if you're going hand in hand as a slave. You're the creditor. You can take care of your own college. You can build your own city. But Trump did that. Most people don't know that. He changed and reformed the prison system. Anybody paying attention? That's because CNN and all the rest of these did not let you know what he was doing. You didn't know one thing that he was doing. He was the one who set out the contract to kill or capture all those who were kidnapping our children. Special forces were formed in order to go in to where human trafficking and child sex trafficking was taking place. And he had orders to terminate or to capture and imprison. And he put it down as an executive order that he would freeze the accounts of anyone who was in the United States, in their banks, to freeze their accounts if they were found guilty. Did Obama do that in 8 years? No, because he was part of it. That's why they loved him in Hollywood. But he didn't care what they did in Hollywood. He didn't care about the taking in of the adrenochrome and all of that. He didn't care about that. Am I going for Trump? No, I'm not saying I'm going for Trump, but you got to look at what he's doing. Are you stupid? Until you can now say, I'm out of this, get my UCC, go see the Moors, find out how to get your autochthonous status back, find out what it is they know, put pieces together so that it works for you, and then get yourself outside. Come out of her, you saw in your own Bible, come out of her Babylon or whatever the hell that is. Come out of her, my people, my wing woman told me. But I'm just saying, I'm ranting, brother. I don't mean to keep up your space like this, but I'm very, very serious about the fact that we are not educating ourselves as to what it is that our true value is. And we are not taking advantage of what we really are in the scheme of things on this plane of existence. There is going to be a big revelation coming up in December, towards the end of December. And we are going to get visitations. We are going to be...
From whom? Visitations from whom? You know I got to know that.
yeah, okay, how do I say this? Watchers.